What's up, guys? This is KAYCOLA.
It's Marcel.
And Austin.
And today we have Nyeesha. She is a life coach and a business coach and a public speaker. Yes,
and
a
therapist.
She's just coaching everyone through their best life.
And she's from New Jersey, guys, and she's a Gemini.
Yes.
But you forgot the best part. She's a dope black queen.
Yes. And she smells phenomenal.
Thank you.
So today we're going to be talking about forgiveness.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Something we all need to work on.
Right now, too, in this very moment.
I for sure need to work on, because I was in the shower like, oh, I hate you. Mad.
We're about to get all the tea.
Yeah, so I definitely, I need this session.
Good, I'm excited about
Yes.
it. I'm excited about it.
I ain't no idol, I'm a lighthouse, I set everybody free.
Learn.
Talk to us. What is what are some steps? What are some things we can do to help?
Okay, so I've created these 8 steps of forgiveness. You don't have to go through them in chronological order, but they are really important. Okay, so the first step, which I get a lot of rebuttal, is search for the truth. So you need to figure out if the culprit, the person that's attached to the hurt, the trauma, the resentment, intentionally hurt you. Intentionally, like they knew if they did this, without a shadow of a doubt, you will get hurt. Or were you hurt because of the outcome being an unrealistic expectation? Like it didn't turn out the way in which you wanted it to look.
Okay.
I got both of those.
So let's hear both options, right? Like, say someone did intentionally do something and they knew it was gonna hurt you.
Right. So let's, like
Where
you
do you
said,
go from there?
if the person intentionally hurt you, you need to find out why. Why they felt the need to hurt you. What was that disconnect? Why did they feel like this was the time to actually do it? Because you also have to remember, hurt people hurt people.
Very true.
Yeah.
So it's really important that if you find out or if you feel that you've been hurt, ask, was it intentional or was it just me? Pretty simple.
I have a question, though.
Yes.
Can you still make that step and just not ask and just be like, look, I'm going to be the bigger person and just let it go? And it still works the same?
No, there's
Okay.
no real letting it go because you haven't really connected to the trigger. You understand? So the letting go, you're really not letting it go. You're just not dealing with. So that let go is
You're
like
just trying to avoid it and be like,
right.
it's all good, we'll just
Extreme
move on.
avoidance.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be the person that brings it up, or I don't want to mess up the current space, so I'm just going to leave it alone. But it's really
I've
not
done
left
that.
alone. So
That is so toxic.
I gotta call this person.
Sometimes
not
we'll
healthy.
do that to avoid making them mad, and sometimes we're not aware of how it will be received.
Right.
So we fear like their reaction, or
Right.
they may not give us what we want. So I found myself doing that, and then it eats away at me, and
You're
I'm like,
doing yourself a disservice.
why am I holding back and feeling, because literally it becomes like a disease inside of you, and I'm like, why am I holding back when like I could just say something and like get it out and then deal with that part later.
Yeah. Because I'm coming from a place of I'd be in this situation, I guess I would be so disappointed that I would no longer be
Even care.
active to want to really resolve it. I could just be like, look, I forgive you. I don't understand it, but I'll remember it, but I'll just like let it go and move forward.
And it's good that you say I don't understand it, because that's the biggest thing. We should always search for understanding.
Okay.
That is the biggest thing. So, if you don't get it, search to get it. Try to figure out, because that disappointment normally comes from a certain expectation.
Misunderstanding.
Right. You had this expectation, it didn't fall through how you wanted it to. So you're not really disappointed in the person. You're disappointed in the outcome.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
makes perfect sense.
Because it could have been anybody that did
Right.
it, and you'll still be upset.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So we go with step 1, right?
Yeah.
Search for the truth.
Okay.
Step 2 is communicate with the culprit. So these 8 steps is not just a romantic relationship. This is romantic and platonic.
Right.
I know a lot of times, especially when I was growing up, let's say like a cousin, a family member said something. And instead of going to the family member, we immediately go to another family member, like,
And
girl,
start
you trying to
gossiping.
slay me. Like,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So instead of going to someone else, this is a platonic relationship, you go straight to the person.
Right.
Hear from the person's mouth. Let me
Yeah.
let you know how this made me feel. And even in romance, you know, like, we're in a relationship and then we call one of our girlfriends or one of our guy friends and then we're like, yo,
What do I do?
or still
vent.
back,
Yeah.
right. Instead of going to that person when the emotions are fresh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, you know, which we'll get into, we run to these different people, we get their advice, or we get their fears now placed on us, and now it interrupts how we act.
Yeah.
In a
I feel like
relationship.
I know like there's times like I don't like conflict that much. So like the idea of like, oh, I could easily just talk big shit like, oh yeah, did you hear what so-and-so did? And like blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, oh, I have to go confront them. And then it's kind of awkward. And then there's like these weird feelings. Like,
My
yeah.
question for that is, do you have any advice on what to do what's to say if the person's no longer around?
I was gonna ask that too, if they
Yeah,
pass.
if they pass,
or
or
if
they're just
they're in
unreachable,
jail,
That's
or
good.
like you never got the
change their
chance to
number.
talk.
yeah, like or you literally will never see this. You probably can never.
And we'll get to that in next steps,
Okay.
but
Oh, okay.
there's still ways to connect.
Okay.
Okay.
There's still ways to resolve that.
Okay.
Did you guys see, like, on social media about a few years ago, they said like everyone is grown until it's time to communicate.
I saw
So
that.
and
That was
that's
like a
that's the
meme.
thing, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like we all boast about how grown we are or how strong we are, but the moment it's time to communicate, because communication, you gotta deal with self.
We're childish.
Right.
You
Yes.
don't take responsibility for your
Yeah.
actions and what you did and the part
Yeah.
played.
Right. I know I was big on that.
Yeah.
I was not trying
That's a
to.
big-
You trying to
y'all-
tell me I'm doing something
Yeah,
wrong?
Gemini, y'all like to take
Ooh,
We don't want to be on a bath out of a Gemini. Lord.
No.
Oh, God.
All right, so step 1 is search for the truth.
Okay.
Step 2 is communicate. Step 3, tap into empathy.
Oh.
Yes. I do that too well.
Really?
And then you'd be
Yes.
like,
I do it too well to the point where I start making excuses for the person, and then I start blaming myself, and then
And you know, just to have that ability to step outside yourself, to put yourself in that person's shoes, and you have to ask these questions like, would I have responded that same way if I was this person? You know, would I have reacted differently if I was the person in the current situation? And a lot of times we don't. We're so stuck on how it made us feel, how you played me, or whatever. But you know, it's really important if you step outside yourself.
Yeah.
You know, what if you were them? How would you have felt, and how would you have handled the situation differently?
okay.
Step 4, and this is kind of goes with if the person isn't here.
okay.
A lot of people say it's good to talk to yourself, but I'm really big on writing down everything, because when the pen goes to the pad, it gets
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
You can
Right?
cuss on your-
Right. Oh, good shit.
She was like, shh.
Right. So let me just tell you a few things that I wrote down, right? So when you're writing this letter down and you're dealing with a particular situation, or you need to ask, why did the relationship continue after seeing the first red flag? That is really important, and it's really important not to just think about it, to actually write it down, because you got to face that.
Yeah.
You have to deal with that, right?
Yeah.
What were you expecting to change? I know a lot of times we have that I can change him, I can change her syndrome, and you need to write it down. What were you expecting to change?
Yeah.
You know? What was the first sign, and why did you ignore it? And it all goes together with thinking that you can change the person, or that big ego, it won't happen to me, or if the person knows
Oh, I
better.
hate that. I hate that.
Right.
I'm so annoyed with this whole topic because this is so relevant to my entire life right now. Now I literally have to unblock this nigga. And
See, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
step 5 is more questions,
Okay.
right? These are more questions that you have to write down. What does your future look like with or without this person?
Perfect.
How, how should you exit this door of betrayal, hurt, and never walk back again? Because there has to be some game plan. It really does. Like, you can easily say, like, you know what, I'm gonna block and I'm not gonna call.
That's so easy.
Yeah, and
It's easier to do. Okay, so for example, with me, like, I've had these struggles with my kids' fathers. So So I can't just block them. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
it's really hard. Or even my father, right? So it's like, you can block your parents, and some of us need to block our parents because they're super toxic.
I've done
You
it.
know, yeah. But my dad's also 80 years, he's about to be 80, you know, and it's like,
you don't want to hold on to anger and then that'd be the last time you
That
see your
shoulda,
father.
coulda, woulda.
Yeah, okay.
that, I mean, my children love him and
Right.
want to have a relationship with him.
Right.
So it's like,
But I feel like that's one of those steps where it's like, that's kind of on you to figure out who you are. Because like the only reason you're gonna walk back in, right, is like based on your view of yourself.
Right.
Like, well, I know it was kind of bad, but like it might
Right,
be better.
right.
And it's like, nah, like love yourself enough to get away from that, or like figure out what
Right.
the toxic situation is.
Okay.
mine's are really bad. And, but again, it's like when it's like your dad or your,
Yeah.
like the
Yo, it's
father of your
hella
child,
complicated.
it's like, it gets super complicated. And then it's, another thing is I don't, like, life is so short.
Right.
You know, just thinking about my dad being older, losing people recently, like, life is so short. It's like, damn, do I want to hold on to like that, or do I want to, I'm trying to find like the balance.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of time, like with my clients or with friends, or even with myself at a point, we hold on to this baggage or this hurt because we believe if we forgive, we're gifting the culprit. Like we're giving you something like, oh, if I forgive you, now I'm giving you this big gift of insecure, unresolved self. But the forgiveness is not for them.
Right, it's for us.
It's for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, like you're really not doing much for them. You're doing all of this for yourself, your healing, your internal evolution. And we have to talk more about your dad because trust me, I've been there.
Yeah.
You know, I've been there.
Yeah.
So we've searched for self, we tapped into empathy, we wrote some things down, and then step 6 is boundaries.
Yeah.
So you a lot of times when we go into any sort of relationship, for whatever reason, we don't create boundaries first.
Okay.
We play it by ear, some shit happens, and then it's like, all right, I gotta make these boundaries. And that's okay, but if you're in this relationship and then something happens, you gotta formulate new boundaries.
Yeah.
There are things that you have to now figure out how you wanna move, or what is now expected of you realistically, and what is now expected of the culprit.
Okay.
You know, what is no longer allowed that was allowed, and vice versa. Like I used to allow you to do this, I hate allow, but I used to be okay with you doing this, and now I just can't sit right with that, and I can't be in a relationship if we continue X, Y, and Z.
Instead of blaming them and
Right.
being like you.
Right.
Yeah,
Because you
change it to I.
definitely played a major part in it.
Yeah.
Step 7, which is the most important, and it goes back to the forgiveness of the gift, forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is really big. A lot of times we don't, we don't go back into relationships, or we don't continue a relationship after this big falling out because one, we didn't communicate with the culprit directly, so we went to someone else, and then now we feel like if I go back into that relationship, I'm gonna be judged.
Okay.
One, communicate with that person, don't tell everybody your business, and then, you know, relinquish that fear of judgment, and then understand that we all of us fall short sometimes in someone else's life. So you have to understand that you must first forgive self before you forgive anyone else. And that is basically step 8, forgive them. And I wrote why, because you are them. And what I mean by that is you aligned yourself with this person, which meant in some ways, some short, you guys shared some sort of like trauma bond. They were a reflection of who you was at that moment.
Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
you have to understand that it's not just them. You know, you played a major role in the relationship as well. So instead of pointing a finger like you, like you said, you, what part did you hold? You know, what role did you play? You got to hold yourself accountable as well.
I have a question about that though, with because I hear that phrase a lot, like we attract who we are.
Very
Right.
true.
But then I think about like kids and their parents, or I think about rape victims, or I think about, you know, kids who have been molested.
Right.
I
All
don't
of the
believe that they attracted. You know what I'm saying? They're
Right. And this
So-
is not in every situation. Like
Okay.
I am a rape victim. I
Me too.
I was, you know, molested
Yeah.
by family members. I get that. And again, you know, I had to learn to forgive these people who hurt me because it's a ripple effect.
And how did you forgive? Because I'm sure other people who are watching have experienced. I mean, it's sad that in the Black community, especially, it's so common that so many of us have actually experienced that. And as I get older, I realize like almost all of my girlfriends or women that I know have experienced that.
Right.
So it's like, how do we forgive, you know, someone who did those terrible things? I mean, they're awful. Like that's not just like, oops, I made a mistake. You know what I mean? Like,
so there, of course, there's a process when it comes to traumatic situations like that. But you have to always remember that it's not your fault.
Okay.
It's not your, in situations like that, it is not your fault. Because a lot of times as victims, we tend to say, well, what if I would have did this differently?
Yeah.
What if I would have wore these extra clothes?
Yeah.
What if I, you know, it's not your fault, because at the end of the day, it should not have happened.
Yeah.
But as you continue to evolve, as you continue to speak to someone, whether it's counseling or whatever, coaching or whatever, that's the practice of stepping outside yourself. That's the practice of learning empathy. And I know as a victim, like, well, I don't want to be empathetic to my abuser.
Yeah.
But as you grow, you have to understand that, like, hurt people, abuse people. And that's the truth of the matter, whether you want to accept it or not at this very moment. It happens. A lot of people who interrupt spaces or rape or molest other people, if you sit down and speak to them in their childhood, it happened to them.
Yeah.
So there's a disconnect when it happens. So if it happened to them, let's say from 11 to 15,
they've like normalized it in their mind, and they're
without a doubt,
Yeah.
because they don't want to sit right with them being a problem. So like you said, they normalize it, and now this is okay. So now it's okay for me to do. They don't even understand that. Sometimes they don't understand that I am doing this to hurt you. Now I'm doing it because it was done to me, and if it was done to me, isn't that okay? It's like a defense mechanism.
Okay.
You have a question?
I actually do have a
Yes.
question. So my question is this. I just recently ran into this issue actually about forgiveness. So the old version of who I used to be years back, I was very mean and very vile, and I said a lot of mean things and did a lot of vicious things to people. So it was a little bit fun but at their expense. However, recently I realized my part in it, and I forgive myself, and I realized that I've grown from that person, and I tried to reach out to the person that I hurt, and they're still pissed. They're still upset.
Right.
So as a person who's forgiven themselves for their actions and saw the place that they played in the whole part of it, what's your advice on that part?
You skip the step.
Okay.
The empathy.
Okay.
You reaching out, you forgive yourself, right?
Okay, yeah.
You forgive yourself. So you reaching out is just to be expressive.
Okay.
You reaching out is just to let them know that I understand, I'm acknowledging self. And you should be able to do that without getting anything back.
Okay.
Because the point is, you've acknowledged what you've done wrong, you've evolved, you've changed yourself, and now you're being expressive. You're putting that out into the universe. You know, you're helping your karma. Like, look, I know I was wrong, I fucked up, this is the role that I played in it, I've acknowledged it. If you choose to continue the relationship with me moving forward, that's okay. But if you don't, I understand, because your healing process is not their healing process.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I had, basically that's what I took from it. I was like, well, I came clean, I recognized my part in it, and I allowed myself to move on, and this person is still in a hurt place.
Right.
So I just have to accept that our past is our past, and we had that moment in time, and just move forward with love in my heart.
And just being expressive like that, just coming out and acknowledging self and the role that you played to them, you just don't understand how big that was for them and their healing process. You know, they may not want to accept it at this very moment because they have their own shit they got to deal with, but you just inspired something.
Yeah.
Okay.
It may take a year,
I
but at least
believe-
like they
Right.
got
It
to
may take
experience what that
time.
truth is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And they may be in an egotistical place to a
Yes.
point where they feel like if they come back and say, oh, you know, I accept this or whatever, then it's like, oh, I let them have that. But you don't know, maybe when they're in the shower or they're brushing their teeth, they think like, wow, he really, you know, he said something to me that meant a lot.
Cool.
I had a similar situation too. I reached out to someone that we both kind of hurt each other, and I gave the olive branch, and I was kind of scared, like I didn't know how it would be received, and she wasn't as receptive or ready to start a relationship or anything. And so I just left it where it was, you know. But my whole thing in that was just like, at least I tried.
Right.
And if someone else isn't there yet, or if they never get there, at least I tried. I think it's better to try everything you can than have questions later like, what if I would, you know what I mean?
But I'm pretty sure, because I've done that before too. I know it hurts your pride a little bit, because your expectation, you're like, I want my friend back, and then you're like,
well, she wasn't my friend.
Ooh, okay, well.
I was trying to form a relationship.
But like in your mind, you're kind of
in my mind, I was like, oh,
they're
wanted
like
to-
still, and
yeah.
you're like, oh damn. Well, now I'm rethinking it.
Yeah, because in my mind, in my situation, I feel like everyone wanted me to take responsibility. I didn't want to take responsibility. I finally was able to take responsibility. You weren't ready for it, and I wanted to just go back to what it was.
Without that ego.
But as an adult and getting older and just growing, I have come to understand that your moments, like in your past, they don't reflect your future.
Right.
And literally, just because you had an amazing like course of time with some person in your past, that does not mean that the same situation will be moving forward. So.
Right.
What if you forgive someone and they repeatedly keep doing
So of
that?
course, respect is major in any relationship.
Yeah.
So if you voice the hurt, if you voice the pain, and that person is not respectful or searching to understand why you feel that way, and you both are working to figure out what those triggers are and how you can deal with it, then that's disrespect. You shouldn't be aligned with anyone that's disrespectful.
Very true.
So, you know, not saying that the relationship can evolve later on down the line, but that goes back to your boundaries. You have to set your boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, look, I can't deal with this. I can't allow this to happen. You know, this makes me feel this way. And if you can't respect that it makes me feel this way, then I have to go. When you're ready to talk about it again, then I will decide, because I have the right to decide whatever the hell I want to decide with my life, then we'll go from there.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, even sometimes people may not understand or have the same boundaries that you have, but I feel like if someone voices to me that something is, you know, gonna hinder the relationship, because I learned that in my last relationship, I was kind of more like, oh, just deal with it and take me as I am, you know what I mean? And, you know, I'm not harming anyone, so kind of just get over it. But yeah, if someone's voicing something to you and it's not gonna hurt you to like try and just respect that, then you should try to do it. And if you don't, then obviously it doesn't mean that much to you.
And again, like if you're in a relationship and someone wants you to, like, say for instance in your situation, and they said like, you made me feel this way, it's not for you to change who you are to make them feel good. It's for you to see if it's okay, if that fits with your current life.
Can work out.
If it does not, then
no.
It's not gonna work.
It's not gonna work.
That's
It's not gonna work. And don't force it.
Yes.
Oh, you said a good one. Don't force it.
Right.
So that's what we have to also learn with forgiveness. It's like basically when you're ready to forgive, you can't force.
Facts.
If
anything.
they're you can't force.
I don't know if I want to forgive them for interrupting this episode.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
That was one of my baby daddy.
Well, forgiveness, perfect.
Right.
timing.
He felt it.
He said, how do you know his name?
Yikes.
So before we go on, I just want to give like effects of lack of forgiveness.
Okay.
Ooh.
Generational curses.
Ooh.
Broken home fronts. Baggage in new relationships, whether it's romantic or platonic. You know, if you're not dealing with whatever that situation is, you're gonna bring that shit right into the new one, no matter what. Health deterioration, like that's real.
Bitch, you gonna look old. Okay? That shit will wear your ass down.
It's no joke, and it even goes as bad as like as deep as infertility. Like, you know, you go to epigenetics. Like if you're holding on to hurt, pain, and stress, and this, and resentment, and anguish, all of that affects. Like it affects you.
I think you forgot the most important part.
No,
energy.
bitch.
Energy too.
Bitch,
Your
yeah, well,
energy.
that, I was gonna
Your
say,
energy.
looking
If you're
old. I'm over here drinking a hell of water because I am stressed the fuck out trying to forgive this nigga.
okay.
It's got
I was
me
trying to say like,
looking
like when you have that
breaking out and shit. I don't even break out, okay?
Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't.
No, but I feel you. Yeah, the energy.
Yeah, because it's like I feel like I've been in situations where like I'm very protective of my energy, and I was around someone that was so angry, so just upset, so miserable.
Was he a Virgo?
I don't know, bitch. And he was old as fuck. He was old.
You love
Ooh,
Virgos?
No.
Sex is so great.
That's the only thing they're good for.
Why does everyone say
can't.
that? It's so
I can't.
Great.
So, but like literally, it was to the point where his energy was so disgusting. But I could tell he was just like, I'm ready to die.
Right.
I'm ready to like let it go. I had to go smudge myself when I got home because he was just so top. No, literally, it was like how do I explain it? It was kind of like energy just like pushing like this, and I just felt it all around me, and I was like, I can't do this. I gotta like.
Oh, the energy is no joke. So a lot of people are saying like, I'm depressed and I'm this and I'm that because there's this, mental health awareness boost that's going on social media. You don't necessarily have to be the one that's depressed. It's
I'm an empath.
Yeah.
I pick up people's energy all the
Right.
time. I take on people's energy, and I'm just like, that's why honestly I stay home so much because I can't take it anymore. Like,
Because you're rich.
It's no. I literally like being in crowds stresses me
That is
out.
true, yeah.
And that's why it's so careful who you're in relationships with too, because if they are depressed, like you can literally start being depressed, start being negative. I found that was happening to me. Like I was taking on his traits.
Right.
So yeah.
That energy transferred through sex ain't no joke.
Yeah.
Girl, what about sex? What about touching?
Right.
Everything.
Right. Everything.
Like,
everything.
ooh,
Like, it's-
like, take it back.
Right.
Now, what about forgiveness for people? I mean, I guess we kind of touched on this, but like we were talking about my dad. So like he's just not accountable. He doesn't acknowledge. He doesn't think that any of it happened. And that's very frustrating because the understanding part is super important to me. Like you said, like I search for understanding. I've even talked to my grandmother about like why my dad did certain things.
And why he is the way he is.
Yes. And I know like especially in the Black community, like our older generation, they hate being accountable.
Right.
Like they didn't do anything wrong, just respect your elders and shut the fuck up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just so hard to talk to my dad because he just has this picture perfect, like he thinks he did everything right just because he taught me religion and he know,
he doesn't. He don't think that. He does not think he did everything right. He knows he fell short. He sees your hurt. He sees your pain.
So is he just
But
trying to project what he thinks is right?
Okay.
Right. Because the moment you say I'm hurt or I feel upset, you're highlighting his shortcomings.
right.
He don't want that. He doesn't
Oh, they
want that.
hate that.
Right.
They hate when we highlight their shortcomings.
So when it came to my mother, we had this really bad relationship, and I got to the point where I felt like I was starting to do the things that she did. Like what I hated to see in her, I started becoming that because I was around her so much.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm on this path of trying to find myself. I do want to practice empathy, but I'm still angry as fuck. So
Yeah.
what do I do?
Okay.
So I wrote this letter like, look, this is exactly how I feel. There's no like sugarcoating it. This is how you made me feel, or this is how I felt when you did this. Not this is how you made me feel, because ain't nobody make you feel nothing. You feel that way because they did it.
Yeah.
This is how I felt when you did X, Y, and Z.
Okay.
Moving forward, if you want to have a relationship with me, that's fine. That will be great. But if you don't, I have to do this for myself. Sent her the letter. She dealt with it however long she dealt with it, and then our relationship progressed later on. A lot of times you have to show people you putting your foot down for you.
Yeah.
You have to show people how much you love yourself, because that's the only way they're going to love you.
That's very
The best
true.
way.
I love that.
Okay, perfect.
This was so great.
Ours.
I love this.
Nail on the head.
Well, give everyone your social media handles in case they have questions.
So
for you.
right.
She's a therapist, guys, so you guys can definitely
So
get
hit
some
those
therapy.
calls
Skype?
up.
Yeah, I do Skype.
Okay.
I do telemedicine.
Skype session.
Yes, right. So my handle for everything, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook is Nyeesha D. That's NYEESHA D as in dog. You can find me anywhere. If you want to DM me, comment on some posts, hit my website. You know, I have this thing on my website where as soon as you log in, we can start chatting. I'm so
Nice.
accessible with still protecting myself.
Protecting your space.
Right,
yeah.
right. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Nyeesha D. I'm here.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Okay.
You guys make sure you leave comments and likes. Let her know how important her information was today and how
Please.
helpful she was.
And tell us your crazy stories of like
Ooh, please.
how you can't forgive people. And we want to hear about all your problems, you know?
And as always, we love you and we hope you heal.
Bye.